Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 80 in the book of Acts. I'm going to title this, The Bad Guy Gets It in the End. And nobody is sad about what happens to Herod. He gets eaten by worms. He breathes his last. He dies, and probably nobody mourned for him. He had a big funeral and nobody cried. All right. Who is this guy Herod? He's all over Acts chapter 12, and we're going to come to his end here. Remember, Acts chapter 12 starts with Herod by the sword killing one of the top 12 Christians in the world, which was James, the brother of John. And then he arrests Peter and looks like he's going to kill him, but Peter is arrested by an angel and he flees. He departs and goes to another place after he identifies himself to the Christian church in Jerusalem. And then verse 19, Herod searches for Peter, which is, Peter is literally an escaped prisoner. Then he has the centuries put to death, the people that were guarding Peter. So he's just, quite a character. And then we get to verse 20 and we find out about his finish. So listen with me. Now Herod was angry with the people of Tyre and Sidon. These are on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea in Lebanon. You can go there today. And Herod is in charge of that area. All right, so Herod is angry with the people of Tyre and Sidon, and they came to him with one accord. And having persuaded Blastus, great name, Blastus, the king's chamberlain, his right-hand man, they asked for peace because their country depended on the king's country for food. So the setup here is Herod is mad at these guys. They want to live. They want food. So they join together. So one accord, that's good. They send emissaries, that's good. They persuade the right-hand man king of the king, Blastus, that's good. And they ask for peace. That's good. All good stuff. And then Herod is going to respond. And on an appointed day, Herod put on his royal robes, took his seat upon the throne, and delivered an oration to them. So he takes a special day. He wears his special clothes, his authoritative clothes. He takes a special place, the seat upon the throne, and then he gives a special speech, which is this oration. So this is a very formal occasion. Okay, then the bad news starts. And the people were shouting, "The voice of a God, small g, and not of a man." Woo! We'll talk about that. Verse 23, immediately an angel of the Lord struck him down because he did not give God, capital G, the glory. And he was eaten by worms and breathed his last. But the word of the Lord of God increased and multiplied, and Barnabas and Saul returned from Jerusalem back up to Antioch, where they had completed their service, bringing with them John, whose other name was Mark. John Mark goes with them back up to Antioch. All right, so why so much about Herod? Because this is instructive for us. And we find that Herod has authority and agency and attitude that eventually is going to be accountable. And it's instructive for us that people have choices. And it confronts us with, well, what did I do with the authority, the agency, and the attitudes that I had access to yesterday? And then, you assess that and say, well, how about today? Am I using my authority and the agency that I have and my attitude today in the future? So it calls us to account from yesterday and it inspires us for tomorrow. All right, I'm a fan of action movies, and about 95% of them, the bad guy right at the end finally gets his due, and that's what happens here. Is Herod, an all-around bad guy, gets struck down by the Lord, gets eaten by worms, and gets his due because he didn't give God the glory. So certainly we should give God the glory, of course. And the question for us is our Christianity marked by gentleness and lowliness, kindness, peacemaking, Let's talk about the Tyre and Sidon guys. They want to get along. They want food. They enter negotiations. That's all good. The problem is when this monster speaks. Now, even though it might be a good oratory, they blow smoke and they say, "This is the voice of a God." I mean, who doesn't like to hear, "Hey, you're terrific, but there's this line here is you're a God, small g, you have the voice of a God. In other words, you're better than all men. You're in the next category." Well, God doesn't like this. He likes the word of God delivered to the people of God, delivered by a man of God, using the words of God. And this agency that these people have in what they do with their mouth and saying you're like a God, yikes. Oh no. So this happened just a little while ago in chapter 10, verse 26, when Cornelius worships Peter and he actually falls down. So he does two things. He falls down and he worships Peter, and Peter immediately says, "Stand up, stop the falling down," and he identifies himself, "Stop worshiping me because I am a man." So this problem that Herod has at this moment could have been easily fixed. And that the problem here is that we are going to be accountable. So Herod has some things that are in his charge. He has a ability to use his authority and his reach and his work and his power and his role and his job well. He has power to use his agency and his free will, his ability to act and influence. And he can do it with a nice attitude. With what attitude do you proceed? Well, he messes all those things up. And the thing he doesn't have authority over is that he's going to be accountable. And so we see the account of an angel, the accountability of worms, the accountability of literally being eaten, and the accountability of breathing his last. So he's in charge of a lot, but he's also accountable for a lot. And it's easy to point the finger and say, "Hey, he's such a knucklehead." But the take-home point is I have authority. I have agency with my body, my mouth, my eyes. I have agency over my attitude. Am I an angry person? So I need to marshal that because I'm going to be accountable just like Herod. Thanks for listening.